Okay, well, it's 10:01, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us today. For those of you that don't know me, I am Tanya Chase with HCC, and we are going to demo the new Individual Professional Development Plan application. It is replacing Kiosk. Kiosk will sunset at the end of the year. We will begin migrations actually next week. So be on the lookout for some emails if you are already using Kiosk, we'll get some emails out about the migration. Sorry, just some house cleaning here, muting people. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, hopefully you're all seeing my screen with the HCC website. First of all, I just want to say, if you have any questions throughout this, feel free to unmute or you can ask questions in the chat. We do have somebody monitoring that just in case I miss it. We are recording this. We will post it to our website. So that is going to be under finance. We have state software links and training. And then we have a link right here. Just click here for HCC training recordings, and it will be at the top here. And it'll take you to a YouTube page. Once it's posted, I'll send out an email. Okay. Okay, so let's get into it. This is what the application looks like for your login screen. You can see here that you can do a forgotten username and a forgot password. We'll talk about this register local user here shortly. The username and just forgive me, like this is going to be geared more toward districts that are already using Kiosk because there will be a migration. So their username that exists in Kiosk will flow through over into the new IPDP application. So username stays the same. Everybody will get a new password, which we will talk about. Okay, so I am logged in as an administrator, which is what there's going to be somebody in every district. Probably somebody in payroll or HR is going to have the district manager role. They're the ones that are going to see some of the things we're going to touch on first here. We're going to talk about creating users and that sort of thing in the configuration. And then we're going to get into the user side of it and how a user creates plans and activities and that sort of thing. So we're going to kind of flow through this. I'll try not to log in and out a bunch of times with different users, but I will have to do that a little bit. So first and foremost, let's talk about, well, this is what I want to talk about. Help. This is available to all users. If they click on help and then they click on documentation, they can go to the user manual right here. It's going to take you to an external link. This is the SSDT wiki page, we call it. SSDT is the developers of this application. There are links here for all the different pages, but what I'm going to really point out here is under the appendix over here, you've got user procedures. And then you have the procedures for different users based upon what their roles are. So a standard user, how they're going to create plans or activities, committee members, what their procedures look like, supervisor approval procedures, and then the district manager. So specifically for your end users, your staff, they can click right here. And it's very nicely laid out if they just need to know, oh, I need to know how I can create a plan. How do I submit an activity for approval? These are quick links, takes you right to it. This is very helpful for sending out to your staff when they're first, getting used to the system. It's available to everybody under help and then documentation. Okay, now I want to talk about users. So user creation is going to be done, first of all, users that already exist in Kiosk will migrate over. Even the deleted users, they all migrate over. So there's no need to worry about having to create all your users again. Your district manager, which again is probably somebody in payroll or maybe HR, they're the ones that have the ability to create your users. But that is done under system and then users. And there's two different ways that users can be created. This is what I call the manual process. Whoever has this role would come in here and they're going to hit create. They're going to select their employee from USPS. So the employee must exist in USPS first. This is why it's oftentimes somebody in payroll that does this. So they find their employee. Oh, not a good one. As soon as I select that employee, it automatically populate their first name, their last name, and their email address, which comes from USPS. I personally like to make their username their email address, so I would just copy and paste into username. By default, everybody is given the user role. If this user is going to be maybe a committee member, I can click on this down arrow and these are all the different roles available. I think most often it's going to be just a user, maybe a committee member, or a supervisor. If I wanted to also give this person a committee member, I just check the box right there. And you can see it added it down here in the left-hand corner. And then I'm ready to create this user. So I would just hit create. Well, normally it would work. I'm dealing with no data, so it's hard to say what happened. Oh, she's already an existing user. Go figure. Okay, so that's how you create a user manually. The other option, and this isn't the ideal option, is they can actually self-register. I know that's what most districts were using with kiosk. The difference here is with kiosk, you could register a user, they could register with their social security number. That's no longer an option with this application. They have to register using their employee number from the USPS system. So they would have to be provided with that in order to self-register. So it's a little more complex. But if you opted to do that, they would come to your, also I should mention, where kiosk has just one link that everybody across the state used, there are individual links for each district for the IPDP application. It will be provided to you at the time of migration, but it'll have your district name up here at the top. So that is a big difference. Kiosk just had the one link. But as long as they are on the correct link for your district, they would register local user down here. They're going to type in whatever username they want, their employee number that's been provided to them, and then their email address. Their email address, you can see here that it gives me a little pop-up. It has to be an email address that exists in USPS, which maybe is just their district email address. Every district's a little bit different in how they do that. Maybe it's their personal one, but it does have to match. So this is kind of why I say this one's a little more complex to allow them to register themselves. They would not check this box right here to be externally authenticated. We're not at that point just yet. But once they type all this in, they would hit create user, and they would get an email with a temporary password. So I'm going to go back into users here. So when we do the migration, we are going to bulk reset passwords. The same thing applies if you have several people that are saying that they can't get in and you need to give them a new password. You can come in here and check the box next to the individual people. And then you can do this little box up here that says bulk reset passwords. And it's going to give you a list of all of their usernames. And you're going to hit confirm. And when you do that, it sends them a temporary password. That password will only be good for 24 hours. After which point, if they do not log in and create a new permanent password, not permanent, a new password, they can go to the login page and hit forgot password. And they can do that at any point. Hit forgot password, they'll get a new password that's good for 24 hours. They reset it to their own. Passwords do expire every 90 days, which is another difference. I don't believe kiosk ever expired. These will expire every 90 days. One thing to mention, the temporary passwords are very complex. They're usually letters, numbers, characters. So I recommend doing the copy paste, being very careful not to include any blank spaces before or after the password. It's usually your best option. If you don't like that idea, you can reset individual passwords by clicking on this little key icon and it says change password. I would type in their new password, verify it, and change the password. Just keep in mind that if you do that for a user, it does not send them that password. You would have to communicate that to them securely. Any questions on users or passwords? Okay. Let me check my notes. All right. So I'm going to touch just briefly on the configuration. When we do the migrations from kiosk, all of your current settings kind of come forward. So there shouldn't be a lot we have to do. There's not a lot of options in here anyways. But just to touch on a few things, certification requirement. This is asking the question, when creating activities and plans, do they have to specify a certification? And if that is true, no, it will not be deleted. Users, so now kiosk, after a period of time, if they don't log in, they become deleted and you have to reactivate. That does not happen in this system. Their password will expire, but they will not be inactive unless the district manager goes in and disables their user. So that is good news. So the certification requirement configuration, the question is, when creating these activities and plans, do they have to select a specific certification? If the answer is yes, you're going to want to check these boxes. I don't for the purpose of my demo because I don't have access to a certification and I don't have real people anyways. So I'm going to imagine this is going to be checked for most districts, but point that out. The email notification configuration. This is where you can specify who gets emails. So when an activity or a plan is submitted, these are the people that are going to get emails about that, and this can be changed. So if I don't want the chairperson to get an email, I can uncheck that. You know, whoever needs to get that email. This is for the originator, so activity status change and plan status change. Will the submitter, so the staff member, get an email for any of these reasons. I would say in most cases, you're going to want them to get an email when any of these things happen. But you can change it if you don't want them to know when it's been returned for modification. I don't know why you wouldn't want them to know that, but you could unselect that. Moving slowly. Well, it's usually not this slow. I don't know what's happening. Oh. Okay. Job status configuration. This is used to determine, so this is from a USPS. So which jobs do you want to pull in and be available? And it's using their supervisor. So one of the configuration options is, do supervisors have the option to pre-approve or approve plans and activities? If the answer is yes, it will use the job status to determine who the supervisor is. So I'm going to say you're probably going to only want your active jobs, because anything inactive is maybe obsolete, and maybe the supervisor on that inactive job is no longer there or no longer relevant. So I would think in most cases you're only going to want the active positions to pull in, so it only pulls in their current supervisor. Pre-approval configuration is another option. So do you want to allow for pre-approvals? You do not have to. And even if you have the option on, it does not have to go through the pre-approval process. The user can opt to submit it for final approval. So for this scenario, I just have my activities available for pre-approval in case, which makes sense. Do you need to get pre-approval to take said course? That way you don't sign up for a course that they are not going to approve. And okay, so here is the supervisor approval. Or do supervisors have the ability to approve activities and or plans? In my case, I just did activities. Plans will go directly to the committee. Okay, any questions about the configuration options?
Hey, Tanya,
Yeah.
is it possible to look at what we currently are using to set up the configuration so it's set up exactly the same as far as who approves and things like that?
Yeah, it actually should pull over. All of that should come over. But when we do your migration, we will do a comparison to make sure everything's set up.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so committees. This is where the committees get set up. Again, I believe committees have to be set up by the district manager. You can have multiple committees. So maybe you have different committees per building. Again, if you have it set up in kiosk, it pulls over already. You don't have to worry about that. This is more if you're setting it up from scratch or if you need to make changes. But you can come in here and we can view this. Again, ignore my errors in this demo. This is the name of my committee. This is my chairperson. And then building codes, again, this is only if I need to specify that this committee is only good for specific buildings. Again, these building codes work with USPS. If I go into edit mode, I can select, this is where I select my committee members. In this case, the only option is myself. In order for somebody to show up in this drop-down box, they do have to have the role of committee member over in users. So if you're trying to add somebody and they don't show up here, it's probably because they don't have the correct role. So that would just need to be updated, and then you should be able to add them. So I can select my people, and then I can say add. They show up down here, and then I save it. And now both Lindsay as the chair, or Emily Lindsay as the chairperson, and myself are the committee members. If I was setting this up by building, I could come in here and say, this committee is good for this building code or this building code, or I can do multiples if I need to. I don't know how common that is, I'll be honest. Okay, we have the professional certification. So if I click on this, I'm going to get an error, but if I needed to see my certifications, I would click here. Again, no data, I don't have anything, but if this was a real instance, you would see all of my users, their names, and their different certifications, whether they are issued or expired, their effective year, their expiration date. So if I needed to filter to see, okay, who's expiring this year, you can filter on the expiration date. This is a range. So if I wanted to do, they all expire on June 30th. So I could say, okay, who expires in probably 2026, go June 30th to June 30th, and it's going to tell me everybody that expires June 30th of next year, and that way I can easily determine who needs a new plan. Sorry, I don't have a better example of that, but. Okay. So I'm only going to touch on this briefly, but your plan template, again, if you have one set up in kiosk, it comes over already. No need to worry about this. And because this is going to be unique for every district, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. I just want to briefly mention it. This is where you create your template, kind of your form that they fill out when they're creating their plan. I already have one in here. This is the label. If you had different ones for different buildings or different staff or whatever, you could label that as necessary. This is the committee. So if it, again, if you have multiple committees set up and you had a committee specific to this type of plan. For goals, so you can have a minimum and a maximum amount of goals that they need to have on their plan. And then you can do specific goal labels. I'll be honest with you, a little bit is a little over my head considering I've never, really dealt with IPDP, but if you wanted to specify, what is your goal for this year? How do you intend to improve leadership or, whatever. It's kind of like prompts for them to fill in. For my example, I just have goal 1 through 5. That seemed easiest. And then you have focus areas. Again, this is a little over my head because I don't totally understand how and which cases how this plays in. I'm sure, those of you who operate this are way more familiar. So if you're setting this up from scratch, we'll work together and get it set up for your needs. If it already exists in kiosk, it's coming over. But these are different focus areas. So, I've got leadership and different options under leadership that they can select when they're creating their plan. This will make more sense when we get to a plan. And then you can have as many of these as you want. So then you can save that, just cancel because I didn't make any changes. Next up, we have the activities. So we have the activity option groups. So these are the various options that they have when they are doing activity or submitting for activities. Is it a conference? Is it an online webinar? Is it a college course? Is it whatever those examples may be? You can list, you can create all of those in here. You can, gotta be an edit. You can add different, like, so conference, is it an in-person gathering? Different options for that pertain to those types of activities. I only have two. I kept it simple. And then the verification method. So how are they going to verify they did said activity? Is it an agenda? Is it a certificate? Is it a transcript? Whatever options might be.
Tanya, does this information migrate over if we have it in our existing system?
Yes, it does.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. That is a good thing. Good. So that's kind of the initial setup piece. Does anybody have any other questions before I get into the process of how a user creates a plan? Okay. So I am going to log in as one of my users. Okay, so this is just a user, Bugs Bunny here. You can see they have fewer options over here to the left. If I go to activities, he has none. I can't even create an activity at this point in time because I do not have an approved plan. In order to create an activity, you have to have an approved plan. When I come in here, my only option is to create. If I had a plan, it would immediately pop up. And if I had an active plan, it would not allow me to create a new one until I archive it. I think it has to be archived. So we'll hit create. In this case, I only have one plan template available. So I'm going to select that. And then it's just basically a form they're filling in. So plan name. So this is, B Bunny 25 to 30 to 30 plan. Whatever they want to call it. I select my committee that's going to be approving this. I only have one option. What's my objective here? Well, I'm going for a 5-year renewal. These are defaulted in. These don't come from anywhere within the system. They're defaulted within the system. My plan focus. So what is my focus? To be a better teacher. I can add comments. This can be, I have 1,000 characters here. So this can be as detailed as I need it to be. Focus areas. So these are those focus areas that come from that plan template. What am I focusing on with this plan here? Well, I'm going to lead by example. I'm working on my effective communication. These are all options set up underneath that plan template. Again, pull over if you're migrating. Goals. So in my plan template, I said we had a minimum of 3, but a maximum of 5 goals. So he's going to have to create 3 goals. So I'm just going to add these in, but you can go up to 5. So you can see here, I have options up to, if these had the prompts listed rather than just the generic goal 1, 2, 3, 4, it would say, it would have the prompts for them to fill in. So I've got my 3 of 3 required. Now I can type in what my goals are. These cannot be the same. So I can't just say goal on each one of these. It has to be I can spell. It has to be unique. So I'm gonna have to, put something different in each of these in order for it to be accepted. So they can't do a copy and paste. Again, obviously, they're gonna have something way more specific than what I typed in here, but next up, they have their professional certifications. Again, this is demo data. It's not real people, so I don't have anything here, but I can show you what it looked like. This is what it would look like. They would have a drop down here, and then they could select all of their different certifications that they want this plan to apply to. So they would select them, they would hit add, and then they can do an attachment if they need to. I can't do an attachment in this demo, and then they would hit create. So once I've created it, now I can submit it for approval. I can edit it if I realize my goals are incorrect or anything like that. But I can do submit for approval. In this case, I only have an option for final approval because I do not have pre-approval set up in the configuration for my plans. So I can put a note, please approve, whatever. They don't have to have a note, and then they can submit. So now, when I go back, I still can't do an activity because I still do not have an approved plan. So if I come back to my plans, I can click on my approval trail and I can see where I initiated it. I can see where I've submitted it, but it's not been approved yet. So now I'm going to switch over to a committee member that's going to have the ability. I guess I can just do it. Okay, now I'm signed in as a committee member. So those of you that are on committees, this is what your view looks like. So you have a few more options over here, the professional certifications. This is your home screen. Your plan would show up here. Any of your personal items would show up at the top. On here, this is kind of like your to-do list. These are things that are sitting out here waiting for approval in some capacity. So I'm on activity approvals and the pre-approvals. So earlier today, I was testing and Levi here submitted an activity for pre-approval. So as a committee member, I can come in here, I can view it, I can check everything out, I can make edits if I think, oh, this isn't contact hours, this is probably a bad because we haven't talked about activities yet. So we'll come back to that. So this is where we've got our pre-approvals, and over here these are the final approvals. So this is where I can come for anything that's sitting out here waiting for final approval from the committee for activities. If I click on plan approvals, now I can see, again, I don't have pre-approvals on here for plans because it's not turned on. So everything is a final approval under the plans. So I can come in here and I can see Bugs Bunny submitted, and I can view that, make sure everything was good. He's got his goals, got his certifications attached, and I can approve. I can put a note if I want to, and I can confirm. So now he's dropped off the list. You also over here have approvals, and you can go specifically to activities. It's going to be in a list. So if there was multiple sitting out here, again, we have pre-approvals, we have final approvals. Then we have our plan approvals. So this is a good way to easily just come in here and, you could do a select all and approve everything all at once. If you have already reviewed everything, or you can view and approve from here. So you have a couple of different options for making your approvals and viewing different things. Also, while I'm logged in as a committee member, we have the professional certifications. This is where I can see all of the district professional certifications. We talked about that earlier. I was just looking at my notes, make sure I'm covering everything. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to talk on. And so if I click on plans, I can see users without an approved plan. So none of these users have an approved plan. So if these are people that need one, I can reach out to them and let them know, hey, you do not have an approved plan. Let's see, go back to without a plan. Go back here to activity. So here we are under final approval. So this would be the activities. If I just wanted to filter to find out what's been pre-approved already, I could filter my grid here. Or if I just want to see, what's been submitted for final approval, or supervisor, like you have different options in here depending on what, because you guys are going to have far more staying out here than what we're working with right now. So you have lots of filtering options within these different grids. Let's see. And while we're in here as a committee member, so when I click on activities, I have my activities and district activities because I'm a committee member. A regular user is only going to have my activities. Same thing with plans. We have my plans and district plans. Okay. Any questions so far? Hopefully I haven't lost anybody. I'm going to log back in as Bugs Bunny. So now he has an approved plan, and I can see up here my plan name. If I come to my plans, and I can go to approval trail and I can see it's approved. Once it's all said and done and this one's complete and I need a new one, I can archive it and then it would show up under all plans. Again, so all plans is going to be all of my prior plans and my current one. Okay, activity. So now, since I have an approved plan, I can create an activity. So again, click on create and it just walks me through it. What's the name? I can say, I'm not very unique here. I keep using the same thing. So activity name, my start date, we're going to say it's October 1st through October 2nd. Because I have supervisor turned on for activities and for the pre-approvals, I can select my approving supervisor right here. So that way it'll go to my supervisor for approval or pre-approval. Put in my description. I can type in a focus. So this is the progress. So what am I earning for this? Is it semester hours, quarter hours, whatever that is. We'll say contact hours and we're going to say it's 3. I can put in the vendor who's hosting. Here's my verification method. This is where we set those up in the beginning. And I'm going to say I'm going to have an agenda from this conference. Again, comments, I can say, we'll submit agenda after conference. I can say, here's my options. This is a conference and it's an in-person gathering. It's not an online webinar, so I'm going to leave that as none. Here's where I would, again, select my certifications that it applies to. And then once it's done, I can do it, or if I have attachments in the beginning, again, I can't do it in this test file, but you will be able to in your live files. So once I'm good, I hit create, and then as soon as I hit create, it comes up with submit for approval. So when I click on that, now I have the option to pre-approve this or do a final approval. Well, I don't want to go to the conference if it's not going to be approved, so I'm going to pre-approve it. And I can say, please pre-approve before I sign up. So now when I submit that, now my supervisor is going to get this and they will know that I have not signed up. I'm waiting for their approval. So now I can see that it's submitted for pre-approval. Okay, bear with me. I'm going to back out and log in as the supervisor. Supervisor has a very similar setup to the committee member. They have similar options over here, except they can only see activities that they are the supervisor of, so their staff. Same with plans, and same with the professional certifications, so they can see who they supervise. On here, again, they have the same option. So this is, in this case, they don't have plan because they don't approve plans. Only the committee approves the plans. So I've got my pre-approvals and then what's been submitted for final approvals. Well, in this case, I only have pre-approvals. So I can come in here, I can view it. I can make changes if I need to. This is where I was going to talk about, if I'm like, oh, this isn't contact hours, this is going to be CEUs, and it's only going to be 2. I don't know. Yeah, so if you change this, it very, very slowly increments. So you're better off manually typing that in. I can save that. And then I can approve it from here. And I can say, changed to CEU and 2 units. I can confirm that. And now it's approved and it's gone from here. Just like the committee members, they also have the approvals over here on the left. They can come in here and approve from this place as well. Okay, so I'm going to just take you all the way through everything. We're going to go back in as Bugs Bunny here. So his plan his activity has been pre-approved. I can no longer edit it, but I can come in here and now I'm stumped. I would imagine that he has a way to pre-approve or to submit this for approval. Clearly, I didn't test this piece out. Will we still be able to pull it forward? Yes, you should still be able to, I didn't see all of that message, but yes, all deleted users come in, they are being migrated over, so you should still have access to their plans and their activities. Okay, so I gotta be honest with you. I really thought that once I came back in here, I could submit this for approval. And now I feel like an idiot for not testing this out. Interesting. Make a lawyer out of me. Just kidding. So it went straight over here for the committee to approve it. Okay, well, I'll figure all that out before we do the trainings with migrations, because I really thought that from there they could come back in and edit and make attachments and then submit it for approval. That's the trick, because it went to the supervisor first and the committee had to approve it. And once the committee pre-approved it, now he can come in here and do his attachment. Again, I can't do attachments here, but I could attach my agenda that I was provided, and then I could submit for approval. So now, because it's been pre-approved, I can submit for final approval. Sorry about that. Now it's submitted for final approval. Sorry for all the switching. So I'll just log in it myself. It's easier. So I'm also a committee member, so I can come in here, and here's my activities. I'm going to go to my final approvals. Here's Bugs Bunny's conference. I'm going to approve that. Yep, good. And now I'm going to approve. So when I log back in as Bugs Bunny, since that has been approved, now I have 2 CEUs. So this will be a running total as my activities are approved. Okay, that's everything in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, well, that is the presentation. I will send out the recording link later today or tomorrow, depending on how long it takes to get posted. If you are actively using the kiosk for IPDP, be waiting on an email from me to get you guys scheduled for your migration, and we'll talk about all of that in more detail then. But if anybody has any questions between now and then, feel free to reach out to us. Thanks for attending.
Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you.